Can 007 First Light win a Game of the Year award? Yes, it definitely can. But it might not. If you look at the history of the action-adventure genre, you see the familiar pattern. Titans like Uncharted, Tomb Raider, and the recent Indiana Jones have defined the standard for cinematic storytelling and set-piece design. They have been nominated, they have been celebrated, but they rarely take the final trophy. That honor almost always goes to the title that managed to reinvent a fundamental system, like the combat of Sekiro, the survival narrative fusion of The Last of Us, or the structural evolution of God of War. 007 First Light arrives on that same foundation, but it isn't just following the map. Just a few months ago, I spent 90 hours deconstructing the mechanical architecture of Uncharted, Tomb Raider, and Indiana Jones to understand where the genre actually shines. What I realized is that First Light isn't just another entry. It is a systematic attempt to solve the design deadlocks those predecessors couldn't break. Today we aren't talking about hype. We are going to dismantle the systems of First Light to see where it successfully upgrades that genre architecture, where it miscalculates its own design, and why it has the potential and the position, but faces a heavy uphill task ahead. To understand why 007 First Light is a systematic improvement, we have to look at where the action-adventure genre has been stagnating. In my recent 90-hour deconstruction of Uncharted, Tomb Raider, and Indiana Jones, a recurring design philosophy became clear. The puzzle to combat to cutscene loop. We have become conditioned to treat environmental puzzles as binary pauses. Find the lever, open the door, move the block. It's a rhythm that turns the player into a passenger. First Light tackles this by focusing on intentionality. Take the onboarding for instance. Those first 3 hours are masterclass in teaching the system. The game doesn't just throw mechanics at you, it carefully layers them until you aren't just memorizing inputs. You are internalizing the optimal use case for every gadget and movement skill.
Hold on. You two, get in the ring.
By the time training wheels come off, you aren't a player following a path. You are an agent fluent in the language of game's system. This fluency pays off in a combat loop that finally feels like a departure from genre's failed state filler. Even when you are on a Purist mode, the gunplay is disciplined, where every trigger pull is calculated, not spammed.
He's up there. He's nearby.
This lethality carries over into the hand-to-hand combat, which takes the environmental reactivity we saw in Indiana Jones and refines it into something visceral. It's not just about punching, it's about weaponizing the room. Every encounter becomes a puzzle you solve with your fist and the furniture. But the real structural upgrade is the gadget sandbox. In the games I have researched, gadgets were glorified keys. You have the item, you open the door. In First Light, they are systematic modifiers. They don't just open the doors, they rewire the level's logic.
It's not important.
Good, Mr. Bond.
Time to put it.
Choosing your loadout is choosing which rule of the level you want to break. Even driving shows a new level of maturity. You spend less time behind the wheel than in Uncharted, but every interaction is significant. One moment you're managing the tension of an escort. The next, a high-speed pursuit.
Clear the road!
and moments later, you are using a vehicle as a battering ram to change the layout of the combat space. It's never the same loop twice. Finally, the quieter moments of espionage. The eavesdropping and social stealth are handled with the depth that makes the genre giants feel like they're playing on the surface.
Will you stop panicking and let me think for a minute? Zara, you told me the deal was locked in place. You said you could secure the weapons for the cause with the money on the crypto wallet. Now you're telling me it's a no-go. We don't have hard currency. You knew that. No.
I need you to track a phone for me.
Dialogue isn't window dressing, it's a tool. It demands you to listen, deduce, and treat social interaction with the same tactical weight as a shootout.
I'm looking for a guest, a Mr. Ellis White. Wouldn't have to know where I could find the man.
Try the Velvet Lantern Bar. I came across them there earlier this morning.
First Light isn't just a collection of levels, it's a sequence of distinct, high-functioning systems that respect your intelligence. It's a deliberate pivot away from the massive cinematic experience and towards a demanding, agency-driven architecture. That respect for player is exactly why it's standing on the shoulders of the legend who came before it. However, even a masterclass in architecture has structural highs and lows. While First Light succeeds in creating a high-functioning playground, it falters when it attempts to bridge the gap between player agency and scripted spy fantasy. First, let's talk about the stealth. As a stealth action title, it functions, but it doesn't challenge. We are playing as 007, yet the stealth system feels underfleshed. The enemy AI is functional, but very predictable. In a game that gives you a brilliant gadget-based sandbox, the stealth encounters often feel like they are waiting for you to use a specific intended tool rather than a rewarding creative emergent solutions.
Let's check that.
It lacks the systematic friction, the pushback that a true master spy simulator requires. Then there is the issue of environmental manipulation. I praised this earlier for replacing the push block puzzle, but it's a double-edged sword. While it's a refreshing departure from Uncharted or Tomb Raider, the current implementation can be incredibly time-consuming without providing that aha moment of mental satisfaction. You're often just navigating a complex UI or performing a repetitive environmental interactions that demand time, not thought. It's a simulation of being a spy, but not necessarily a challenge to the player's deductive reasoning.
Crypto on that wallet to
Get
real
closer, Bond. I don't have signal. Get closer.
That makes sense.
Got a lock on that signal.
And finally, we have to address the platforming. When you look at the industry's high watermarks, specifically Shadow of the Tomb Raider, you see platforming that is an intentional, rigorous challenge. In First Light, the platforming is functional, it gets you from A to B, but it lacks the intentionality that makes navigation feel like a core pillar. It's there because it has to be, not because it's a design element the player wanted to master. To be clear, these are minor hiccups, and the game's core mechanics are robust enough to carry them. Yet, we still have to ask why First Light remains a top-tier contender, despite its lows. The answer lies in its moment of brilliance, where the game redeems itself and elevates into something truly elite. Let's break down exactly how it earns its place among the best of the year. If the core systems are the foundation, the level design is where First Light truly earns its elite status. Every mission, every chapter, and every encounter feels deliberate. In an industry where action-adventure often means repetitive, busy work, First Light delivers a phenomenal experience. Each environment is built to be distinct, self-contained challenge that never feels like it's recycling its own assets. The pacing is where the genius really reveals itself. The game masters the art of the shift. One moment you are in a slow burn espionage sequence, and the next you are plunged into a high intensity rescue mission with a ticking clock that forces you to abandon caution and lean into your mechanical fluency. These aren't just arbitrary difficulty spikes, they are the tests of the agent the game has spent the previous hours training you to become. And we have to talk about the boss fights. They are sparse, yes, but they are surgically calculated. They don't rely on cheap health sponge mechanics to artificially extend the encounter. They demand that you use your gadgets, movement skills, in the ways the rest of the game only hinted at. They are fair, intense, and satisfying. But the most impressive aspect is the compounding effect. Most games lose their momentum as they reach their final act, turning into a chore of more of the same. First Light does the exact opposite. As you learn more gadgets and techniques in your repertoire, the game becomes more responsive, more fluid, and significantly more fun. It's a design loop that actually rewards the player for mastering the curriculum. When you combine that deliberate level architecture with a pacing model that constantly resets your expectation, you get a rare breed of experience. It has a variety in the gameplay that makes every hour feel fresher than the last. It has the potential, it has the position, and while it faces a very heavy uphill task ahead to dethrone the genre giants, it is undoubtedly one of the most mechanically amicable and rewarding experiences of the year. Ultimately, 007 First Light is a fantastic James Bond experience and a genuine step forward in the action-adventure space. It pushed the medium, it challenged our expectations of player agency, and it proved that an action game can be a system-driven architecture rather than a linear set piece. But if we are talking about the Game of the Year crown, we have to be realistic about the mountain it's trying to climb. History shows us that Game of the Year winners don't just push the medium. They redefine a single pillar so aggressively that it becomes the industry standard. Look at Sekiro's mastery of rhythm-based combat, or God of War's seamless integration of narrative and RPG mechanics. Those games took one concept and pushed it to its absolute zenith. First Light pushed the boundaries of systematic design and gadget-driven gameplay, but its failure to elevate the stealth pillar to that same world-class level created a ceiling it couldn't quite break through. And then there's the reality of 2026 lineup. When you look at the sheer cultural gravity of GTA 6, the anticipation for Wolverine, and heavy hitters like Resident Evil Requiem, the path to the top is exceptionally steep, the hill is high, and the competition is historic. But don't mistake a lack of an award for an actual lack of quality. First Light is a top-notch experience that honors the Bond legacy, while simultaneously demanding more from the player than its peers. It's a design experiment that succeeded in being more than a standard adventure. And for that reason alone, it is a title that should not be missed at any cost. It might not be the undisputed winner of 2026, but it is without a question one of the most important games released this year.